Okay, welcome to the Team 2 presentation by Sierra Brooks, Ron Jones, Mike Swords, and Liz Bunker. Oops. Okay, the little engine that couldn't. The first-year teacher, Russ Esky, is frustrated with many of his students. The students do not live up to the potential that he sees for them. They're apathetic about learning. They lack learning strategies and are unable to work independently. Russ seeks help. He has colleagues who suggest grouping by ability. His principal, Ms. Gonzalez, refers him to Sharon, who is the curriculum supervisor. And Sharon believes the problem is in the home. What is the problem and who owns it? Ms. Gonzalez, the principal, thought that methodology would fix Russ's problems. Curriculum specialists thought problem was at home. And colleague Sid mentioned that the crabs in a bucket analogy. Lack of knowledge and understanding of the students and the community that they serve to be the problem. Relationships are built with trust and understanding, creating learning experiences that engage.
Cultural diversity. Once you understand and appreciate other people's cultural backgrounds, then you can also connect with them more. Mr. Esky was lost on how to reach the students in his classroom. So how can he reach all of them? The administration and staff needed to learn more about cultural diversity, motivation in learning, differentiation, and learned helplessness. At Sparta Elementary School, their population consisted of more than 900 pupils. The socioeconomic breakdown of Sparta Elementary consisted of 30% who lived in middle-income homes, 70% that lived in low-income homes. So the majority of their population lived in low-income housing. The demographics consisted of 50% who were white, 40% African-American, 9% Hispanic, and 1% Asian American. This is what we would consider a melting pot. That is different cultural backgrounds that come together in one location. We've learned that students vary as far as dialect, cultural, monetary benefit, identity, learning, and experience. They will contrast in their necessities, objectives, premiums, feelings, and convictions. The diversity issues in Mr. Esky's classroom. It was said that Mr. Esky is considered culturally blind. He was unaware of the cultural and social norms of his students. Therefore, his students seemed to be detached in the learning environment, which caused students to not perform. Students were placed in groups based on demographics, but that did not resolve the issue of their learning. Mr. Esky assumed that the parent would push her daughter to attend college, but that was not the mindset or the norm of the parent. The child lived in a neighborhood where the adults worked jobs based on skill and not knowledge. Therefore, the upbringing of Mr. Esky was vastly different from the upbringing of the parent. Also, Sarah and Pat, two girls in the classroom, were goofing off because they did not know how to do the assignment. When teaching a group of diverse students, it is important to know the students so that the teacher can make engaging lessons and relationships with the students. Not only is their culture important, but their needs and interests as well. The teacher needs to meet the students where they are, and also determine what the student needs and be able to assist them.
Motivation in learning. Motivation to learn is cultivated when students are intrinsically motivated by need, interest, curiosity, or enjoyment. When they find goals that are personally satisfying to them, and also when the challenge is moderate. If it's too much, students will shut down, but they need to be moderately challenged. If it's too easy, they're not interested either. They're also motivated when they're mastery oriented to achieve their goal. They're motivated also when they view success and failure as in within their control. If they feel like it's out of their control, it diminishes any motivation to do the work. They also need to believe that their ability can be improved incrementally. So knowing students is essential for teachers to set the goals that are personally satisfying. If you don't know what your students are interested in, you can't set goals that will be personally satisfying to them. Assigning moderately difficult tasks, that involves knowing where your students are academically. And then identifying their interests and needs is crucial. Waller and Miller said that identifying individual interests and cultural background is a large part of motivating students. Teachers must know personal factors about their students in order to motivate them to create lessons that will engage. They need to consider the influence of the academic classroom on the student, the value the students have in the work. If they see no value in the work, their motivation will be diminished. And the setting of the classroom is also important. Student interest and choice need to be accounted for when designing assignments that are going to nurture intrinsic motivation. And that's our overall goal when we want to create lifelong learners, is that intrinsic motivation to learn. Students feel proud and hopeful when engaging with their interests. This helps students develop deeper knowledge. So connecting to our case, Sarah and Pat, who were goofing off, and they saw no intrinsic value in what Mr. Eske gave them to do. They found it overwhelming, and that led them to work avoidance in order to avoid failure. When Mr. Eske assigned them the ocean for their topic, he took away choice and interest. So to motivate learning, tasks need to be relative. They need to relate to student interests. They need to be relevant to the student's world. The tasks need to be attainable with something they feel they can accomplish. And they need to relate to the goals the student has for themselves.
Differentiation. Russ Eske was not meeting the needs of his individual students. And when you talk about differentiation, it basically means instruction is adapted. It's adapting the curriculum to the needs and the abilities of each student in the classroom. Perhaps Russ should have done some research on other factors and before he started grouping the kids together in the groups that he had. The interaction between the teachers and the groups, and then decided progress is good, and then make adjustments to the instruction from there. Now, the three positive attributes to using differentiated planning and instruction. The first attribute is that the teacher is going to be constantly assessing. So he's not just going to do something and walk away from it. He's going to look at his plan and make a judgment as to how effective it was for each one of the students. The second attribute is that he's going to gain some extensive knowledge on how each student learns. He's going to have to actually get with each student and talk to them individually and find out what type of learner they are, and then proceed from there. And finally, the teacher is going to have to reflect on how effective his instruction was for the day, and make adjustments to his plan for tomorrow to continue the instruction. The thing about differentiation is that all student learning styles have to be accounted for in the entire classroom, and there is no one size fits all for differentiation. It has to be individually tailored for each student. Some other things to consider when you're thinking about differentiation is the cultural diversity and how it affects the instruction. Consider the things in culture that you need to consider are the motives, the values, the beliefs, identities, and interpretations of events that go on. Adaptive teachers adjust their instruction to meet the needs of their students on the fly. So you don't just sit back and wait for everyone to get bad grades. He needs to be very proactive. Again, he needs to be aware of their cultural backgrounds, and that's part of being an effective differentiated teacher. And also, if he does it properly, the differentiation, instruction, and planning will help him manage the classroom. Teachers, if they can trust the groups that they set their students up in, they actually get to facilitate the role as a leader in the classroom, and not just someone that the teachers have to listen to, but the students become more involved in it. And he also has to make sure that he's allowing the students to work alone, because the more he interacts, the more he restricts their learning ability.
Okay, learned helplessness. Ballmer and Gass describe learned helplessness as a coping strategy used to escape or avoid stress in averse yet avoidable tasks. What are the results of learned helplessness? According to Woolfolk, 3 types of deficits are said to result due to learned helplessness. 1 is motivational, which the student lacks drive to complete tasks. 2 is cognitive, where students miss opportunities to develop cognitively through skills and abilities. And 3 is affective, which can result in anxiety and depression. Who does learned helplessness affect? Learned helplessness affects adults and children alike, impacting work, school, and home life in a variety of ways. People with certain psychological characteristics and intellectual disabilities may be more prone to experiencing learned helplessness. Case connections to learned helplessness. When questioned by Mr. Esky, many of the students let him know that they did not get the information, that they were just lucky when they scored well and were unmotivated to do the classwork. Despite the encouragement from Mr. Esky, the reassurance that Mr. Esky gave to Paula, she continued to verbalize self-doubt brought on by learned helplessness. Despite Mr. Esky's insistence of Paula's capabilities, Pat's expectations for Paula remained low, which fit her expectations of her family and her neighborhood. It is possible that Ms. Gonzalez, the principal, also feels stress and anxiety in knowing how to properly address classroom issues that are brought to him by Mr. Esky and other teachers. An example of this is when she didn't offer many solutions, but instead she referred Mr. Esky to the curriculum supervisor. Also plausible that there is a culture of learned helplessness throughout the school in which Mr. Esky works.
This brings us to our solution. The ERMS Foundation is part of the solution that our team has created. The ERMS Foundation's mission will be to foster partnership with schools, family, and community. Council of stakeholders the stakeholders being the community, the teachers, parents and guardians, and also students will be formed in the foundation. And the council's task will be to identify needs of families, school, and community, to address the needs that are identified, to sponsor social events each month that bring the stakeholders together. Some examples of this are dinners, neighborhood visits, community service, celebrating learning. Another task of the council will be to identify a school-wide service project. And another task is to implement the professional learning communities, or PLCs. Why these solutions? Well, students discern relational trust in teachers based on regard, respect, integrity, and competence. Sunday dinner on an afternoon at the start of each school year to bring the school family together to help celebrate a new school year will help create a mindset of working together. And we know that sharing meals together can break down barriers and boundaries.
Learn helplessness solutions. The solution would be professional learning communities, also known as PLCs. What are professional learning communities? PLCs consist of teachers and leaders within a department who meet once per week in order to enrich the learning within the department, as well as to share ideas and to make student achievement more attainable. PLCs are a way to promote ongoing learning within schools by teachers and leaders sharing lesson planning, classroom management strategies, cultural diversity training, organization, and pairing of new teachers with experienced teachers. PLCs serve several functions. They will promote teacher growth through collaboration with their colleagues and leaders, and they will also expose teachers to issues related to students, as each teacher brings their own unique set of experiences to the table. Provide collaborative lesson planning for differentiation, and to provide support to teachers, especially new teachers, as they encounter problems for their first time.
Part of our solution is for teachers to know where our students come from. One particular solution we noticed was before the school year began, educators need to have an idea of the background of their students. An example used by a middle school in Columbus, Georgia, was to take teachers on a bus ride tour of the neighborhood of where the students reside. This allowed the teachers to begin planning and have an idea of what the life of the students is like. They were also able to understand the behaviors, mannerisms, speech, etc. of the students that they would have in their classrooms.
And the final part of our holistic solution will be diversity training for not only the teacher, all new teachers, but the current teachers and the administration. Educators need to develop, I say we need to develop an understanding of what type of students make up our classroom. And as teachers become more aware of the classroom students, the students are more likely to perform well when taking assessments. Now, teachers find it hard to make time to do any type of training that's outside of the facility. And that right there could be a very, very hard task for them to do. So we are, as the ERMS Foundation, we are offering a suggestion that they do a virtual or an online classroom. This way, teachers and administration can work at their own pace. And one of the online classrooms that we found was called Solution Tree. And what they do is they facilitate the work of a professional learning community, and the teachers can do it again while they're at school or at home or whatever is most convenient for them. This concludes our presentation for the ERMS Foundation. Elizabeth Bunker, Michael Swords, Sierra Brooks, and Ron Jones would like to thank you and have a good day. Sorry, guys. I didn't know what